You know, we here in Autogefühl like to treat you with something special, so we got a comparison episode for you here today with the avant-garde of the French automotive industry, the DS7 Crossback and the Peugeot 508 as the estate SW, and both as the plug-in hybrid versions. One front-wheel drive plug-in hybrid and all-wheel drive plug-in hybrid. It will be a very interesting test because we'll also compare the concepts of SUV versus estate. What's the pros, what are the cons, and so on. And of course, we do not care at all where a car gets built. Every car gets the same fair treatment here. But I can tell you, it will still be a meticulous German-style test with high-speed Autobahn. And of course, we're going to take a look at every detail on the exteriors, the interiors, and the driving experiences. Here, now in Full HD, full screen, and full length. Let's go! Please subscribe to us if you haven't done so far, and thank you so much for all long-term subscribers. Here, both fronts, very interesting. We have both vehicles in the sporty trim, the 508 GT and the DS7 Crossback performance line, so both the sporty visuals. Here in the 508 we have this pin grille with the shiny dots and also a stronger lower bumper. The plug-in hybrid version only available as a top trim, the Allure or the GT. That's why it's also the GT here today. And then usually it would start with halogen headlamps, and then in the GT trim and also in the plug-in hybrid trim, here automatically comes done with the LEDs and a very beautiful strong look in the front. Then the DS7 Crossback here in the performance line gets the shiny wide front grille, in general a big stance on the road. It has something of the Audi Q5, doesn't it? Also with this Audi-like single frame grille. Then our sportier contrast in the lower part, but overall also a very clean design in the front. And here it would start with the xenon headlamps and optional and also the LED, but LED again also included in this very trim here with this crystalline design effect on the inside. I think a beautiful job. 4.59 meters or 181 inches for the DS7 Crossback and 4.75 meters or 187 inches for the Peugeot 508. So 16 centimeters or 6 inches is the difference. So the DS7 Crossback, yes, and I came on this side today, taking your bets. So this one here, the DS7 Crossback, a little bit shorter. And this SUV just available as it is right here. And just simple design lines. You see the drop-in line here above the door handle. Then the crossover look here at the crossover cladding right there. DS performance line. So this performance line is both an inspiration and a trim level. Soon explain you more about that. 20-inch wheels here, the optional one. Usually the performance line comes with 19-inch wheels, and the total range for the DS7 Crossback is 17 to 20-inch. A little bit smaller for the 508. This then here is 16-inch to maximum of 19-inch, and we have a good compromise here with 18-inch wheels. I would advise you to go for these here. 17-inch would be standard for the GT, and then optional here the 18-inch, and they have a good compromise between comfort and the looks. Then we also have the hybrid badge here, so they just call it hybrid, although it's the plug-in hybrid here. And the 508, you probably know it, is available both as the SW version, the Estate, and also as the sedan, which has the typical falling roofline. To me, the sedan, of course, also is a little bit more elegant, more beautiful. Then again, the Estate has the practical advantage. And of course, in our comparison here today, SUV versus Estate, both of them with the hatch, is of course a more proper comparison than to take an Estate for this very comparison. It will be very interesting because, yeah, as we just told you, the length difference is not that huge, the price difference is not that huge, and there's a lot of technology their car are actually sharing. So interesting for this exact comparison, but also as a concept comparison. I would like to know from you, just design-wise, which car would you actually go for? Both these cars show that French design is definitely back. I mean, this Estate here is just a beautiful job in the rear. It's a normal hatch ending, but still it got so much elegance. Then also with these Peugeot claws as the signature LED, so I think really cool. And no fake exhaust, so no job for the Autogefühl fake exhaust police right here. And it comes just with one standard suspension. Here, the DS7 Crossback. A very interesting job here again with this, artwork style tail lamps. Pretty cool. They call it E10s when it's the plug-in hybrid version, E10s 4x4 when it is the optional one that also has the additional electric motor in the rear. But here, there is a job for the Autogefühl fake exhaust police, but just on the outside, because when you look at it from distance, this is not the real exhaust. The real one is on the inside, but maybe like just a small fine or so, but we don't have to put it to jail from the Autogefühl fake exhaust police. And then on the inside for the real exhaust, you can also see there's an additional heat protection then that maybe otherwise the plastic would be burned or something. But yeah, very interesting to look at that. And even more interesting is there's something with the turning indicators and that rear hatch. Because here you can see the turning indicators, beautiful cascading style, here then also with the hazard lights. But the thing is, the tail lamps are included in this rear hatch, so when you open it for safety reasons, they need to go somewhere else because you can't see them anymore, and therefore they switch to the lower part of the vehicle then. Fun fact, right? And by the way, these lights, they do not flicker for the human eye, just on camera, and you can see even the individual stripes run on different hertz rates, and that's why you can see if we set the camera that one are actually okay, the others flicker and the other way around, so it's really tough for the cameras, I can tell you. Both cars from the PSA Corporation, they share a lot of different parts, also the engines, and they have turbo petrol and turbo diesels. But today here about the top spec plug-in hybrid versions, and you can see here the engine powers the front wheels, and also the electric motor powers the front wheels. So this one here is front wheel drive only, 224 horsepower, 1.6 liter turbo petrol engine made it to this electric motor. And this is not available with the all-wheel drive. It is, however, available with this one here, the DS7 Crossback, either the same spec with 225 horsepower and the front wheel drive electric motor, or then optional 300 horsepower, and then you get an additional electric motor in the rear. And this also then explains the price difference, where the DS7 Crossback here in this spec, as it stands here, about 57,000 euros. The 508 GT PHEV about 52,000 euros. But when you leave out the additional electric motor there in the rear, then both cars are actually approximately the same price, which again brings us back to the question, SUV or Estate, which would be the better choice? But definitely very interesting. Performance figures, by the way, this one here pretty quick, 6.6 seconds with the additional electric motor, whereas 8.1 seconds in the acceleration to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour for the 508. But if you pick front wheel drive only with the DS7 Crossback, then this one is even a little bit slower than the 508. And about charging, oh wait, that's a microphone. About charging, battery size 13.2 kilowatt hours gross, and that means an electric range of about 50 kilometers or 30 miles, the pure electric range. And maximum AC charging You can see it right here, 7.4 kilowatt, right there. And then the time, of course, if you use the full potential, 7.4, have a charging station, then it only takes 2 hours to recharge it. At home, of course, then way longer. But you can then just charge it overnight, for example, for these small plug-in hybrid batteries. And both have the very same system, DS7 Crossback and the Peugeot 508. Khaki DS7 Crossback, here with the red performance line color, but the same basic key as also the Peugeots have, also with the keyless entry once more, closing, and also the side mirror flips in and opening, door closing sound. It's quite solid. Then the performance line, this is a so-called inspiration, so a base design level with a lot of Alcantara, but it's a trim level at the same time. So they use these inspirations for how it looks like and trim levels of how much equipment you have. But performance line is both, so to say. Yeah, that's a little bit complicated what they did there. Soft touch also at the top part of the door. Then the performance line also features this sport steering wheel, flat bottom, red contour stitches on the inside, more Alcantara use, soft touch dashboard, also aluminum pedals together with the performance line floor mats. Then the seat, normally in the performance line, it comes, the format it is here, but then with Alcantara on the inside and leatherette on the outside. That's also what you should go for. The alternative is the Bastille inspiration would have a fabric leatherette mix. That's also cool. Here the optional animal skin equipment, and it really smells very extensively in this interior for the chemicals and perfumes being used for this optional animal skin. But again, it's just an option. Normal performance line would come without. Then let's get inside. SUV seating position. You have actually a lot of space. Then when you hit the ignition here, you see this comfort entry that the seat goes a little bit forward. The steering wheel with a manual control in and out and so on. And then the headroom here with 1.86 or 6.1, pretty close. This also seat in the lowest position. However, this one here is also equipped with the panoramic roof. Have to turn on the ignition once more, a little bit more. Let's see. No, still won't work. Only with the engine on. Here we go. And then we can, first of all, have this cover here, the slider, and then open it completely like this. Here we go. And this, of course, leaves more light in this interior. There even happened some situations where I could only move the seat when the vehicle was stationary, when the engine was turned on. So that's, of course, a little bit annoying. Interior overview, very interesting, a unique design. Performance line also, and then here features so much microfiber, and also at the inside parts here that your knees are also softened up, so to say. Really cool and so unique, definitely. So 2x 12-inch screens, and when you turn on the ignition, you can see here the analog clock folds out. Interesting. Soon more details to the screens each. Then you can see here in the lower part capacitive buttons. Just the volume wheel here. This is still a real one. Everything else capacitive. Steering wheel has a good size and also a unique setup. Right side for changing radio stations, for example, and the left side then for changing something in the instruments. There are the digital ones. volume control. Then this microfiber cover, you can put it open, and then smartphone USB-A charging and Apple CarPlay Android Auto connection, drive mode selector right there, and then the window levers here are just right here in all four, and to control them all four at once is hardly impossible. Yeah, that's it looks cool, and the doors from the inside look clean as well, but then yeah, it's not a practical solution at all. Adaptive cup holders, and then this armrest here, split in the middle, and then a lot of space underneath. Infotainment screen, so this is the hidden main menu, so to say. And here, climate unit, just controlling it here or with the voice command. This will also be possible. Increase temperature. Increase temperature. It's not a natural voice input, but here it works a little bit here. And this is the Apple CarPlay integration, so very large, definitely. The sound system, let's test it here. Yeah, it's a nice sound, so nice. Can't complain about that, so that sounds good. And you can always go back to the hidden main menu with 3 fingers, and then like this. Other than that, in the lower part, you can also have this hotkey here for the climate unit, or for example for the GPS. And GPS also, a little bit laggy, so not really happy with it. I would rather than use the, if you have enough data volume, the GPS of your smartphone, definitely. And then there are some vehicle settings, for example. There's night vision available, actually in both cars, so this then works at night. And on the very left part here, you also have the menu for the charging, visualizations, energy flow. Here you can see 2 electric motors in this case, and statistics, as well as charging. For example, you can set a different charging time, or the e-save, that you can actually save some energy for later. Not efficient, but at some point it might be necessary. And the digital instruments, they are really flexible. Energy view here, for example, but you can also switch it around. And the visualizations, they take some time, so that can be a little bit annoying. Driving, yeah. There we are, for assistant systems, for example. You can also deactivate them with the button left next to the steering wheel. It's also quite cool. GPS view is, of course, always very helpful, that you can see the map then while driving. Here, that's what I meant. So a very practical solution. If you want to deactivate the lane keeping assist, for example, then you have directly one button, then it's off. So that's a good solution. And the rear view camera for both cars, actually, not a good resolution here, so they should upgrade that. I mean, those are not very cheap vehicles. And then the fake drone view from above builds up because there are 2 cameras being used for budget reasons. There's no side cameras, so you can see then this is a live image, this is a live image, but in between is basically a recorded image and just projected. Getting inside the rear of the DS7 Crossback, easy entry once again, although the doors don't open too wide. Soft touch at the top door here in the rear, and a lot of nice Alcantara views once more. Legroom, this is actually plenty, so pretty cool, quite spacious here. That's also an advantage if you compare it to the Peugeot 508. And also if you think about the SUV siblings, the Peugeot 3008 and the 5008, this one here, the DS7 Crossback, exactly sits in between. Very interesting approach, isn't it? Then, headroom-wise, there's also still some left, although there's a panoramic roof. If you want more headroom, you would leave out the panoramic roof. But definitely also in the rear, more, the travel feeling, comfortable travel feeling here in the DS7 Crossback. That's a difference to the 508 then. Isofix outside. Then you have the very same cup holders here in the rear for both vehicles, actually. And the middle tunnel here is actually very shallow because this is an SUV and it's also a front-wheel drive platform. If you have that additional electric motor, there's no mechanical link, so they can really make this lower area really flat. That's a nice experience. Then also 2 USB-A chargers, and sitting here in the middle part is actually quite well possible. And by the way, here with an additional button, you can put this rear bench a little bit more upright. Again, we had to turn on the engine for that it works, but here you can see more upright. If that's really necessary that it's an electric function, yeah, I doubt that. But yeah, definitely another interesting luxury feature. Car key feels quite good actually, solid. Keyless entry, put your hand on the outside to close it, and also the mirrors go in. Here the contrasting color also then inside goes up. And it also folds automatically downwards when you put in reverse gear, that you can check the rear tires, and goes up again when you put in drive mode. Good function. Door closing sound. Extremely weird. Yeah, that's the downside, and one of the reasons is we have these beautiful frameless doors, but they are then, you know, also an emotional element. Then soft touch at the top part here, really soft, and also these nice wooden elements. It feels matte, it feels like a structure, it's really cool, so very well done. Optional focal sound system, then slim door pockets, and this is the GT trim, as I said. First of all, more from this wooden insert. Really looks so premium, extremely cool. GT trim, flat bottom steering wheel, then contrast stitching, and usually GT trims comes with black Alcantara on the inside and leather red on the outside, so an animal-free seat, very cool, but also high-class premium. And here in the plug-in hybrid version, exclusively with this grey Alcantara. What a great job! This looks like a high-class furniture design. So really a nice job, sporty but yet stylish, so awesome job as for this. Let's take a seat inside. And by the way, the Allure trim that is also available for the plug-in hybrid would have then fabric inserts here instead of the Alcantara. Climate-wise, in summer, the fabric would stay even a little bit cooler than the Alcantara. But of course, if you would go for the optional animal skin, then it's even worse for summer times because you would stick to the seat and it gets really hot. So far, seating comfort here is actually quite good. You feel that the car is not the most suitable for tall people overall. It's okay, but also, and I wouldn't say, you know, is especially made for me, you know. 1m86 or 6'1", and headroom here on the middle part is still okay. Just here to the side it gets quite close because the car design is built in a very flat way. I can also put this lower part a little bit longer. Memory seat, 2 memory seat buttons. Then there's a seat massage function, but it's, you know, not the most elaborate one. And the steering wheel with this Peugeot iCockpit, a small steering wheel here, up and down, in and out. And the thing is, I have to put it way low that you can actually see the instruments here. Then it gets close to the knees. So yeah, for me it's a little bit close, but overall still quite okay. The only advantage of this high-sitting cockpit is then that it replaces, so to speak, the head-up display because everything is relatively in your line of sight. But definitely some computer gaming atmosphere here with this small steering wheel. Interior overview here, Peugeot 508, soft touch dashboard, then the 12.3-inch instruments here, digital instruments. On the right side, first of all, the focal sound system that has no speaker right there. Then, again, this very nice insert. Beautiful decal element, contrast stitching. 10-inch screen right here. And one catch already right there, you have to control the temperature right here in the screen, and while driving, yeah, that's not that good. You can theoretically also use here increase temperature.
Temperature changed.
So this is possible, for example, while driving, but a little bit annoying still. So I miss the old knobs. At least we have a separate volume knob. I really like that. Soon more details to the screens. You can see here you have some hotkeys right there. So for example, for the plug-in hybrid version, you can switch to this energy menu where you can see the flow of energy, for example, or go to the e-save mode that you can actually reserve some electric energy for later, talking about that while driving. And again, a little bit more details soon to that. In the lower part, you have this capacitive button for seat heating. Then driving mode selector, also going to talk about that while driving. Shifting lever, and then another, one more of these wooden inserts, so hardly any black piano lacquer, very cool. Then here's some more space, for example, for the key. Cup holders are adaptive and also illuminated. And then, well, this split here of the armrest is quite nice, but then there's a catch to it. When I open it, the left part is, not sure, the seat is wrongly aligned or something. And then on the inside, even more space. But then the question is, where do I put my smartphone? Yeah, it's really underneath that one here. So it's a really tricky thing, 2 USB supplies, and you always have to work around here. So that's not a real practical solution. Steering wheel also has shifting pedals for the normal combustion engine. Right side you can, for example, scroll in radio stations. On the left side you can change the digital instruments from the views. Infotainment system up close, there's always a trick with 3 fingers. Then you can go to a hidden main menu, so to say. Other than that, you can also use these hotkeys, for example, again to access the climate unit or the GPS. The GPS itself could be a little bit more responsive. You see here it lags a little bit behind, so yeah, probably better use the one of the Apple CarPlay. And you can access it here with this phone hotkey, and then you can also go to your Apple CarPlay maps, Android Auto also working with the cable connection. And let's listen to this optional focal sound system. I would say, let's go here. So that says it right here. That's nice. Yeah, I think very decent sound here. I mean, we got speakers all over the place. That's really worth it. Yeah, way to go, man. I'll continue that later on. You can see here the CarPlay integration. Doesn't use all of the screen, but I think it's good that we can still have, here on the left side, and I can always access the temperature by that, for example. So yeah, basically it does the job. Most of the time you will probably use the CarPlay system anyway. This is another hotkey to go to the music setting, and here you can again jump to the CarPlay once more. The digital instruments are quite fancy. Here you can see the energy flow, for example, but you can also have different views, like a more classic analog dial view. The visualizations look fancy, but they take a lot of time. That's a little bit annoying while driving, for example. And there we go. This is also possible, and the GPS map can also be put right there in the middle. This is probably also one of the most useful views then for this car. And when you pull the shifting lever from D to B, the car recuperates more, so you have to use less brake. Works the same way in both vehicles. And when it is dark, you can also activate the night vision assistant. Here a unique feature in the mid-size segment, and again, both cars do offer that. Here, for example, you can see how pedestrians are being marked by these, rectangles, yellow rectangles around the pedestrians, so you can see them even better. Let's get inside here. 508 in the rear. First of all, also soft touch at the rear doors. That's nice, but the rear door doesn't open too wide, so not practical for child seats and so on. If you sit in the rear, you would need to tell the driver, put the seat a little bit up, then you can put your feet a little bit better underneath. And there's not too much legroom left here. And the back part of the seat is also, a little bit strange as for the cover, but at least it's soft, so it doesn't hurt. But again, not too much legroom here in the 508. Headroom, however, with 1.86 m or 6'1" is no problem. And it's quite decent here overall, besides of the legroom. Isofix at the outsides each, and then we have also the beautiful bright Alcantara setup here for the rear seats. In the middle part you have cup holders, but they are so shallow and not adaptive. Probably your kids will spill everything all over the place then. Then there's this ski hatch, the small one, manual. And in the middle part, there's no massive middle tunnel because it's a front-wheel driven platform. And then there are 2 more USB-A devices for charging. So about that trunk, electric hatch, 555 to 1750 liters, and you can also put that hatch a little bit higher, and then you can actually secure your position for your basement garage, for example. Then we can see here we lose a little bit of height because of this cover, so but still looks quite square. And when you look underneath it, you can store some cables right there. So there's one possibility. Or for the additional cable that you don't use it often, then there's also this bag available here with this magnet. Or you can store the other cable also underneath. That would also be possible. We also put some sample luggage in here. And then the trunk length is about 95 centimeters. So that's of course shorter than the 508. And the width here is very well a meter. Also like in the slimmest area, just a meter. And the height here to the cover would be about 44 centimeters approximately. We can also flip the seats, fold the seats here like this, and also on the other side. And it's good that they directly fall, so to say. And then the overall length to the seat as I would be driving here is just a little bit over 1 meters and 70. Now to the hatch of the 508. See here, also electric tailgate and also good square dimensions. We also put some luggage inside. The cable needs to be here actually, because here underneath there would not be sufficient space for a charging cable. Then the measurements, and the interesting thing is, if we compare to the DS7 Crossback here in the length, this is 1 meter and 5, so that's about 10 centimeters longer actually. That's, the more overhang it has, actually the estate advantage. It's also a little bit more square in dimensions here, so it's even a little bit wider than a meter, 1 meter and 10, definitely more practical as for this sense as well. And then the height here to the cover, let's see, it's about 46 centimeters, so it's a little bit higher than as well as in the DS7 Crossback. We can also fold the seats here, and they also directly fall. Here we go. So, and they also automatically fall a little bit flatter. So overall, a little bit more usable trunk area. And here then to the seat as I would be driving, this is an overall, 1 meters 80, 1 meters 82. So again, this additional 10 centimeters. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge, and we start here today with the DS7 Crossback E-Tense, and in this case also the 4x4 version. So you can get the very, very same drivetrain as you can get for the 508 with the front-wheel drive only and the electric support, but here then in this case with an additional electric motor in the rear, giving us the all-wheel drive and the only all-wheel drive possibility then for this vehicle. So no pure combustion engine all-wheel drive possibility is actually present. However, it doesn't really matter that much if it's front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. In most situations not. It's more about the acceleration figure then. So this car is definitely quicker than in this version. So when the acceleration figure would usually be closer to 9 seconds, here will be about 6.6 seconds, so definitely way quicker. And of course, if you are living in countries or have some situations where you really need that all-wheel drive, then it also makes sense. In general, about the DS7 Crossback here, you have an upright seating position. That's really good, and you have a nice overview to the front. For the B-pillar, it's good to have a blind spot monitor, which we have on board here. To the rear, of course, the visibility is a little bit limited because the window is quite, slim and limited. And the steering feeling here is quite light, but still, precise enough. And I think that's really different to the Citroën and the Peugeot cars here in the DS. I feel they mastered it a little bit better, that they have a more connected steering feeling. So this is really a great job. So it feels connected to the road, car and driver. So I'm really very positively surprised about that. It will also change according to the driving modes. At the moment we are right here, driving mode. You're just in the hybrid driving mode, so that means the car decides itself when just to, use the combustion engine and when to drive just electric. And when we're just rolling, most of the time, there's just then, the electric drivetrain active, and then when we push the throttle, then actually the combustion engine also goes on. And you can also have then the different gauges here while driving. It's a little bit distracting that they take so much time to to load with this fancy visualization, and then we can also have these gauges in here. There are also the separate e-gauges here. We can also check out the flow right here, and then we can also see it. So when I'm off the throttle, actually, here we're gaining back battery energy. There we can see also in this visualization they put 2 of the electric motors here. Yeah, I guess it's better to see that. There again, what is active and what not. Yes, I mean the question is, what will you actually do when you drive the car? So I think you won't look at that all the time. Here, I think surprisingly often the combustion engine is on. You can see it right here. But for example, when I switch to the electric mode intentionally, here we go, then combustion engine also goes off. Here I can see now, this is here then off, and then either rolling, for example, and nothing is active. So, and the pure electric driving mode, here again, fully charged, 50 kilometers, 30 miles of range. So it's actually quite acceptable. And there also the question is, are you using this energy first and then set on the combustion engine? On short rides, maybe yes, and then you recharge electrically. And on longer rides, you would rather use the hybrid mode then, and then try to use the combustion engine when that is more efficient, and the electric drive when you have like stop and go and something. Here in the electric mode, by the way, you can have here decent acceleration, also just pure electric. Sounds good, all silent, great electric driving moments. That's really so much more fun, and this car feels pretty agile, although it's it feels like a grown-up SUV, and it's just so much more fun to drive it all electric. Actually, that's pretty cool. And we'll head out to the motorway now to test something of the performance. So far, I think a very good and comfortable setting. The performance version usually comes with 19-inch wheels. These here are the option 20-inch wheels. If you want more comfort, you would of course stick with the 19-inch wheels. But here with the 20-inch wheels together with this active scan suspension, how it is called, I think it does a good job. So let's now hear electric acceleration once more. Let's see. Yeah, it actually has a nice electric punch, like the pure electric punch, so that's totally fine. Now onto this construction side here. Cruise control, there's also lane keeping assist, and also the distance to the car in front of us is being kept. You can set the cruise control here at the lower lever. Let's see how the lane keeping assist is changing here, what we do. Distance adjustment, you can set it here also on the lower column. There we go. So in here you can see the active lane keeping assist. Now realize that there's lines left and right, even here in the construction side. Let's see how it performs. Now there's a slight left corner. And so far it was quite unintrusive. Felt quite natural. Yeah, I think that's actually a good job. And again, I'm really positively surprised here about the steering feeling. I wonder why they couldn't just do that at Peugeot the very, very, very same way. So pretty cool. The sports mode we will drive soon when we have a harsher acceleration, actually. Get over here now, and again, switch the side. But here, as soon as I want to drive it in a little bit more agile way, it's actually no problem. So, they have more like this comfort and luxury image, but I think this car also drives surprisingly sporty, and especially as the plug-in hybrid version, of course, you always have more punch. But here now again, I recuperated the whole way, also when going downhill, and now just stop and start. You don't need the typical stop and start function from the combustion engine. You have it already included, so to say. Other driving modes, by the way, comfort and electric, they are not really that different. So, and I switch this side here, all electric here, and it really feels agile, especially when you drive it all electric. Wow, this is so cool. Then again, charging a little bit when I go off the throttle. The recuperation effect as for the braking is not that harsh. And here we go. So definitely this car is more fun as a plug-in hybrid version than it is with the combustion engine version. So of course it's more expensive. However, best price performance here would then be to pick the front-wheel drive only version, also with the plug-in hybrid. Rear-wheel drive plus then, or like this all-wheel drive, that you also have the rear electric motor. This is indeed something then when you want more performance. Let's see about that. And here we go now, we put to the sports mode. Sports mode then, all the boost that is available, maximum. We're starting at about 40 kilometers an hour. Let's see, and let's go. That's the one at 70 kilometers an hour. To cancel it here, and wow, there was some serious boost. So this is indeed a big difference then. So this powerful acceleration then with the all-wheel drive, 2 electric motor, 300 horsepower. Oh, pretty impressive, and you wouldn't expect it maybe from this car or from this brand because they have like a performance image or something. It's not that silent here now at higher speeds. Even at here at about 130 kilometers an hour, I think it could be more silent. This car not laid out for so higher speeds. It might also be the building form of the SUV. So this is where, for example, the sedan or an estate has an advantage. There it's just a little bit more silent, a little bit less wind resistance and so on. So yeah, that's definitely something. I can just put the AC off for a moment, but oh, that's not it. Just just to be safe, if it maybe was that, but that was not the case. But here also good feeling for the brakes. And now here about like 80 kilometers an hour, this is actually no problem as for noise insulation. But yeah, I think this is something that could work on with the noise insulation at higher speeds then. Here now cruising and soon going to a tunnel. Once again, lane keeping assist for this vehicle. The good thing for me is really again this upright seating position. You more have a traveling position, in this vehicle. And although it's not one of the longest SUVs, but in the front you feel already quite, elaborated. And also this, abundance of Alcantara use here all over the car. This really gives you a good driving feeling. Here now at night you can see the big display once again and this analog clock. And once again the digital instruments. Panoramic roof is also a nice option to have. Of course, it leaves more light in the interior, especially on darker days. You always have to think about if you're living like in a very, very hot climate, then it might make sense just to go with the normal roof then. Also sometimes included in the trim. Now we're still in the sports mode. What I can also show you is there is also a four-wheel drive mode, and this is then ensuring that you always have the all-wheel drive. If you might be in situations where you're stuck or something, then you always have the all-wheel drive available. So this is more like a, I would say, safety thing or something. But then you really know that you can use that all. But usually it's not really necessary to use that. Just stick in with the hybrid mode. Again, a lot of fun to steer this car around. The suspension, by the way, is set rather on a soft tone. I think they have very good compromise between the sportiness and comfort. So I really like the setup, and this active scan suspension, how they call it, it really scans the road in advance and then adapts the dampers to it. And you really feel that it's not just a normal plain suspension, but really a more sophisticated one, and I really like that. So they definitely put up a premium vehicle here. So from all the driving you have, and also the ambience, the interior they created here. So that's actually a very, very good feeling. The big question about SUV versus estate, it's really more about if you prefer this upright seating position. I found it indeed more comfortable. Then again, sedan or estate can be a little bit more silent on the motorway, especially at higher speeds. So that also depends on how fast are you actually going. Yeah, and of course then there's this thing with the trunk length, of course. So, and of course we will discuss that one further then in our final conclusion. So here, first of all, the last driving impressions. Here again, really fun, also in slalom-like. Lane change about 50 kilometers an hour, no problem. So indeed a fun SUV and something very exclusive. One thing I did notice on the negative scale is there is some squeaking sound here coming from the, not sure if you can pick that on the camera. When I steer left sometimes, there's this sound from the right back of the vehicle. What that could mean is sometimes, the rubber of the inside of the doors, they get a little bit dry. Sometimes wrong cleaners are being used. We had it on one driving event so far, that suddenly all new cars were beginning to squeak, and the thing was just there was a wrong cleaning solution being used, and that actually dried out all the rubber pads, and then they started to like squeak against the metal. So maybe it's that, but of course it shouldn't really happen, but we'll also take a closer look at that. And one more acceleration when we are already at speed, here at about 90 kilometers an hour, and let's go. So that's in 160 kilometers an hour, and pretty good, the acceleration again. But again, the noise isolation could be a little bit better at higher speeds here. However, the stability then here, sports mode is also a little bit stiffer than, more feedback from the steering wheel and so on. Lane change, higher speed, here we go. Let's now drive the Peugeot 508 as the plug-in hybrid version here too, the SW, and just getting here on the motorway. Interesting turning indicator sound. That sounds a little bit cheap just from the turning indicator, but that's maybe just being meticulous. We have a blind spot monitor here, this small dot. Smaller dot, it's really, really small, and it only appears in the direct moment where the car is in the blind spot. You could say this is more precise, so to say, but I think the systems that warn you a little bit in advance are a little bit better as for that. I wanted to try different things here with the plug-in hybrids today, and one thing I wanted to try with this car is also, what if you deplete it? And what's the fuel economy then when it's almost depleted? And also, how is it possible to recharge it while driving? That's of course not efficient, but there are often questions about, is that possible? And it is possible. So you can set this right side here to energy reserve and set to 10, 20 kilometers or max, and then the car now is recharging the battery while driving. Again, that is using a lot of fuel. It might make sense, when you think about future like emission zones, that you can, for example, only drive electric in a city and otherwise you're not allowed to enter. And then you could charge it here now on the motorway, and then you are still allowed to go inside the city, and that could be a use case. And it seems to me that with every kilometer I drive with petrol, another kilometer of battery range is added. You know what I mean? So this is possible, but again, it's not really an efficient method to do that. It's actually better than, of course, to always charge it at home or at work, to get to a charging station and so on. So these plug-in hybrid vehicles, of course, make sense when they are being charged at home frequently, definitely. So there's an adaptive cruise control available, and also lane keeping assist. However, here in the construction site, it's not really reacting very well. This is always a good test. Some cars do that, some don't. Here now it's a little bit easier. Then let's see here, not steering now again. Yeah, now it's picking up the lines here. Yeah, but no, never trust in 100%. And also lane keeping assist here is from time to time a little bit nervous. So not the best lane keeping assist here so far. Of course, in the 508, no matter if it's a sedan or estate, you sit lower than in an SUV, have a normal mid-size sedan or estate feeling here from the seating position. It's overall good and nice. And the overview is also not too bad. The big pillar here is super thick, so therefore the blind spot monitor is extremely important indeed. And now getting to about 100 kilometers an hour, and when I'm just running on the combustion engine, it's a small combustion engine for this car. Sometimes it feels a little bit stressed, you know what I mean? So this car is really so much better to drive when you have the electric support. That's just so much more fun to drive with this vehicle here, because then you can enjoy the silent moments. The electric acceleration is also very nice. 135 kilometers an hour is the maximum speed for pure electric driving. Everything above that is done then with the combustion engine. You can also very well see these hybrid gauges here in the front, not only the speed but also here when I'm on the brakes, then charging is happening, and when I'm a little bit more on the brakes, then here charge goes even fuller, and only if I need more braking power, then also the real brakes are being applied, so you also save some brake pads, for example. Definitely the effect is of course stronger with the pure electric vehicle, but here with a plug-in hybrid already existent. And it's always when you're going down a hill, you can regenerate once again a little bit more, so not everything is lost. Here now for our acceleration test, I'll turn off the power reserve. Not sure if it's costing any acceleration power, therefore I'm turning it off, and I'll put it to the sports mode. And then always there's power both from the combustion engine and from the electric drive, just to give you the maximum boost. Here 8.1 seconds to 1 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. That's faster than with the front-wheel drive plug-in hybrid of the DS7 Crossback, and slower than the all-wheel drive version of the DS7 Crossback, so in between, so to say. So now getting like a flying start, and we'll start from about 40 kilometers an hour and then accelerate it out and also get some high speed for you. So let's see, next C-Class, getting past, and let's go. So that's 180 kilometers an hour approximately, and that's also enough then here for our test for the day. I mean, quite reasonable acceleration, definitely. And here about 180 kilometers an hour, it also gets pretty loud, although the noise insulation is not that bad. This car was not really built for regular speeds like this, more like, let's go 130 kilometers or 80 miles an hour. This is still reasonable, also noise insulation wise, can't complain about that. And that's where the German manufacturers would still lead the French, because they really built for this autobahn racing, really high speeds. The noise insulation is a little bit better than cars, more stable. Here, lane change at 130 kilometers an hour. Car feels still quite stable, but not so much in control like the sportier sedans or estates. So the suspension here is also set on a more neutral, softer tone, which is not bad at all, but not for super stability. The steering here is pretty direct. It doesn't convey a natural feeling road car driver. However, because it's so direct and it feels a little bit arcade-like, like a computer game, it also looks like this, like you would, in past times, just add, a arcade controller here to your PC or something. So it is definitely fun to drive, but not the most natural feeling. Again, this very unique cockpit setup really makes your driving somewhat special. So you always feel it would be something unique indeed. Here now the gauges at night, you can see. The good thing here about this cockpit is relatively in your line of sight, relatively high. So that's also an argument that you would not need a head-up display. Some ambient lighting here, and also here. That's actually very nicely done. And then again, the question is, what's the difference then to like a typical premium car? I mean, this is more than 50,000 euros base price. So, especially in this spec, you could already consider this car here as premium, I think, you know. And it definitely delivers you also a very nice experience. We also talked about with the interior with the beautiful grey Alcantara seats. It's really so good. And it's also a nice seating position. However, as for me, as a tall driver, I definitely always feel that the SUVs are more comfortable long term. They're of course not more dynamic or something, you know, just in general. But just the long-term driving experience, when you have a more upright seating position, it's to me a little bit more relaxed, and you feel also, you know, that you would have more space. Here you feel also on your longer drive a little bit caged in, big middle console here. I don't have too much room for my legs, so I wouldn't exactly say that it's, you know, suited best for very, very tall drivers. However, of course, you know, I get along as you know, showed you in interior. Here now a little bit more dynamic driving. It's actually quite good. Again, this car is really fun to drive, and different possibilities you have here with the plug-in hybrid. And we will already have, you know, a couple of kilometers charged once again. And then, for example, we can, you know, if we want to, we could go to the electric mode and then just drive purely on the electric drive. So, and this again gives us this serenity we have here, very good for traffic situations, for example, when there's like a, you know, red traffic light, we can just, you know, roll, or maybe I don't get the next green light and then I just roll a little bit further, just pure electric. And this is definitely reducing then the emissions inside the city. So always really good to have that. And you know, there's always a kickdown possible for manufacturers usually say safety reasons. So let's say I'm driving all electric and then suddenly I need an acceleration because I need to get on the motorway a little bit faster in front of a different vehicle, and I hit the throttle. Then you hear, even in the electric mode, the combustion engine hops on. There are some plug-in hybrid vehicles where they always stay in the electric mode, even if you floor the throttle. And you can argue pro and against it. On the one hand, I like to stay in the electric mode, but it should actually be, you know, a plug-in hybrid with, you know, a lot of power reserves and so on, you know, that would be better, you know. So maybe it would be a good idea to limit that to the state of, you know, battery status or something, you know. So here back in electric mode, then for example, rolling with 80 kilometers an hour, there you can also see when the combustion engine is on in these visualizations. Just doing it for demonstration purposes now. I guess it's not a good idea to look at them all the time when you drive it in everyday driving life. So there then it would be yellow from the combustion engine. Here when we're just keeping or maintaining the speed, the electric drive is also quite efficient. However, if you want to use it a little bit more efficient, then it's not the best way to always deplete the electric drive and then go with combustion engine. You can do that when you have very short trips, then put it in electric mode and do all the short trips yourself with the electric drive. But when you have a longer journey and you know that you would deplete the electric drive anyway, then it's probably better to stay in the hybrid mode. So here, for example, then at the motorway, when we drive a little bit faster, we can use the combustion engine. It runs in a, you know, in a good state, so to say, in a very efficient area. So because the combustion engines, when we're driving like, you know, here like 100, 110 kilometers an hour, then they're relatively efficient, especially when we maintain a steady speed. But the lower speed, and like stop and go and so on, this is very inefficient for the combustion engines, and then you could more use the electric drive. And that's exactly happening in the hybrid mode, so I can basically recommend driving these plug-in hybrids in the hybrid mode. Again, unless you know, oh, like during the week I commute like 20 kilometers a day and I can really drive it all electric all the time. Then it makes sense to stick with the electric mode, definitely. So the normal combustion engine experience with the Peugeot 508 is somewhat, standard, I would say. Nothing really special, but here then with the electric drive, it adds something to it, definitely. Do I miss the all-wheel drive? That is not offered here for the 508, and it's also a difference then to the DS7 Crossback. I mean, it's not the performance car anyway, and it doesn't have so much power that you would notice like significant wheel spin on the front axle or something. So I wouldn't say that it's super crucial that we don't have all-wheel drive here. It might be for some who really want the all-wheel drive for winter conditions and so on. That might be a thing. So, and that's definitely also then something to decide between also these two cars, definitely. I think the main difference, DS7 Crossback and 508, is definitely seating position, higher or lower, as for the driving now. Suspension-wise, you have the this active scan suspension from the DS7 Crossback, which is a little bit better, definitely. Then always wheel choices are really crucial. So the bigger you put the wheels, the stiffer the ride gets, smaller. I think here it's still a good compromise we have here from the wheel size. So I'm overall happy with the suspension. It's not really sporty, but it's not too soft that the car would shake too much. So I think I'm, really happy with that. I think in the driving modes, what else we have? Sport, we tested that. Acceleration, hybrid, talked about that. The car decides itself. Comfort mode is, not too different from that. And in the electric mode, then once again, where the car just drives it all electric by itself. But even that, when we're here in the hybrid mode, for example, now we're just rolling downhill, engine shuts off, just on the electric drive, and also recuperation. So half of the possible recuperation is happening now a little bit more. And that's such a good situation here now again, where you can use the potential of plug-in hybrid, going downhill all the time. And now not all the energy is just lost. We're still gaining back some energy, and that makes the drive definitely more efficient. So, and that's also the thing, So I reset the consumption meter here now, because before that it was like an unrealistic result, because we were using this charging by the combustion engine, and then the fuel consumption goes like in double-digit liter figures, because you're actively using the engine to charge the battery, which is again not efficient. But here now, for example, just by starting here, I have like a minus consumption, so to say, also minus acceleration, deceleration, because I'm getting big. Oh, there's a 40D X5. It seems to be tuned a little bit. So here again in hybrid mode. Now again silent drive from the electric motor, really cool. Next traffic light jumps to red, so it wouldn't have made sense if the combustion engine hopped on. And now all the time I was running downhill, then going here, combustion engine is off. And now I can also finely tune it in the hybrid mode if I want the combustion engine to hop on. So if I go over this certain threshold from the throttle or not, if I accelerate very gently, it all remains electric, no problem. Can also go a little bit more, still possible. And now I was above the threshold again, and the combustion engine goes on. And some hybrid vehicles have a stronger threshold in the throttle, where you really feel like, when are you over this threshold to activate combustion engine. Here it's not really that well notable. They more follow a philosophy that the car does everything itself, and you just drive and let the car do its thing, basically. But I mean, you can also follow that argument. Again, let's see. You see also reasonable. There wasn't like a slow acceleration, but you can also drive it all electric in a normal way, and You see here this electric range I gained earlier also remained the same now because we were going down and so on. And then people always ask me at the end of the day, what is the real fuel economy for this plug-in hybrid? And it so much depends on if you charge it or not. So you can't really say that. But if you use it in a hybrid mode and you're counting out the energy consumption for that, you can easily score very, very small single-digit liter figures, so that's no problem. I mean, here now we were going downhill, I was going slowly, and the combustion engine was just on like for a split of a second. So this is almost zero acceleration now, zero consumption, and we're still in the hybrid mode. I can also now reset it once more here because now almost only straight road is coming, and then we can also closely monitor that. But again, it's actually not authentic and not journalistically correct to state a definite fuel economy for a plug-in hybrid, because it again so much depends on what you do with it. However, I can really say that if you compare it with the normal combustion engines, you still save fuel even if you have the battery totally depleted, because you have these recuperation moments. Then again, you use the electric drivetrain, standing still in traffic, running downhill. So it would still make sense in a way, but overall, also thinking about full life cycle, the full eco thought, then of course to buy a plug-in hybrid only makes real sense when you have at least some kind of a charging infrastructure. So a lot of different interesting thoughts here today. And now for our final conclusion, it's getting really tough. Which car will it be today for us? For me? For you? And now to our conclusion for today with our comparison episode, DS7 Crossback versus Peugeot 508 Estate. And of course the concept question, SUV versus Estate. I think let's start with that. First of all, it's a SUV. It has of course, a more prominent design here on the road, a stronger stance than the flatter sedan or Estate, more elegant approach. On the interior, the main difference is that you have a more upright seating position in the SUV, and this actually really gave us more comfort, especially if you're a little bit taller. And the using of space on the interior is also a little bit better because all the seating is upright. And we've seen that the main difference is on the interior. I mean, this car is a little bit shorter, but main difference was really that we have the longer trunk here in the Estate. So that's really the question. Do you really need more space on the interior passenger compartment, or is it really that the long trunk is really crucial for you? In driving, also again, the SUV was a little bit more comfortable for longer journeys. However, then when it was up to higher speeds, noise insulation wise, from the wind resistance, the Estate had the advantage. So yeah, that's a really tough decision. It really depends on what you appreciate more, if the upright seating position is very important to you, or if rather the longer trunk is important to you and you may be more at higher motorway speeds also. But definitely important to know what the differences are. In general, the DS7 Crossback is a very unique SUV, pretty much standing out to the market in design, both exterior and interior, different with these interesting inspiration levels as well. There's a nice build quality also on the inside. And the driving experience is also performant on the one hand, especially with this dual motor setup here, but also comfortable enough with the active scan suspension. Even better than when you stick with the 19-inch wheels, if you, for example, go with the performance line and don't upgrade to the 20-inch wheels. And then with the 508, it was also a nice driving experience, also a nice compromise between sportiness and comfort. Here with the single motor setup, which will also be available for this one here, there was the difference even a little bit bigger, that this one here was a little bit less sportier, although it is not the SUV, so that was a quite interesting experience. But of course, the plus in performance was also due to the additional motor setup. If you go with the single motor here with the DS7 Crossback, by the way, the driving is actually a little bit different, because then this one here is slower than this one. So it also depends on this motor setup. The overall hybrid technology is pretty much the same. It works quite well, and this 50 kilometers of pure electric range or 30 miles can easily be reached. The fuel economy really depends on if you use the hybrid mode together, so sometimes electric, sometimes combustion engine, you can easily score very, very low single-digit liter figures on 1 kilometers. If you're charging actually the battery while driving, then the consumption will be way, way, way higher, but usually you also should not really do that. The 508, by the way, also with a very unique setup here, especially in the plug-in hybrid variant. So their interior stylings are really very cool. Infotainment system software-wise, yeah, that's where they are both lacking some kind of refinement. It's a little bit too complicated. You also don't have separate climate knobs. So yeah, you have to think or rethink that definitely. And there was this, squeaking, rattling effect here in the DS7 Crossback in some left cornering. I think we have to check that out at the workshop. Cannot comment on this any further here at the moment. But that might be, some rubber thing or something, or maybe something needs to be fixed. We'll keep you updated with that on the comments later on. But overall, I think both cars here showed the avant-garde of the French automotive industry. Very interesting rides. The question is, which one would you go for? Which one would we go for? Me personally, I really like the styling of the 508, especially as sedan, by the way, and also the interior styling with the PHEV grey Alcantara there. So visually wise, I really prefer the 508. Driving wise, as for the comfort on longer journeys with the upright seating position, I prefer this one here, the DS7 Crossback, and also this dual motor setup was a lot of fun, was just, with a bigger punch. So, I would like this drive with this visuals. Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, since there's not much of a price difference between that, it's just the extra price for the, additional motor there. Yeah, I probably would have ended up with this one then, just to have a little bit more comfort. What do you think, guys? Tell me your comments, and we see us in discussion or also at one of our next reviews. Bye.